I pressed my palm against the polished mahogany bar, the cool surface grounding me as the bass from the sound system pulsed through the soles of my worn sneakers. The scent of expensive whiskey mingled with sandalwood cologne, a combination I'd learned meant money, the kind that didn't ask for prices. My reflection in the mirrored shelves behind the bottles showed a girl who looked younger than her 22 years. Blonde hair twisted into a practical bun, white shirt buttoned to my collar, black slacks that had seen better days. "Clara, Table 7 needs their third round." Marco's voice cut through my observation, his tone carrying that edge of impatience he reserved for the newer staff. "And don't forget, Mr. Moretti's guests always get the premium pour, even if they order well." I nodded, already reaching for the Macallan 18 without being told which bottle. 3 months working at Vincenzo's had taught me the unspoken rules faster than any training manual. The bar occupied the ground floor of a converted warehouse in the city's revitalized district. All exposed brick and Edison bulbs, the kind of place where a single cocktail cost what I used to make in an afternoon at my old diner job. The weight of the crystal glasses felt substantial in my hands as I arranged them on the tray, each movement careful and measured. My feet ached from the 6-hour shift, but I'd learned to ignore discomfort. Growing up with a single mother who worked 2 jobs had taught me that pain was just information, not a reason to stop moving. I wove through the Friday night crowd, the tray balanced with a steadiness I'd perfected through necessity. The bar was full tonight, leather jackets mixing with designer suits, the carefully curated collision of danger and money that gave Vincenzo's its reputation. My eyes tracked the exits out of habit, cataloging faces, noting which tables had ordered food versus just drinks, who was getting loud versus who was getting quiet. Table 7 sat in the corner booth, partially obscured by a decorative column. 4 men in their 30s, expensive watches catching the light, conversations punctuated by laughter that never quite reached their eyes. I'd served them before. They always tipped well and never touched, which put them in the category of ideal customers. "Gentlemen." I set down the glasses with practiced efficiency, pouring exactly 2 fingers of scotch into each glass. "Can I get you anything else?" "You can tell us your name, beautiful." The one with the scar above his left eyebrow leaned back, his smile pleasant enough. But something in his gaze made my spine stiffen. "It's Clara." I kept my voice professional, friendly, but not inviting. "I'm happy to bring you our food menu if you'd like." "Just Clara? No last name?" Another man joined in, his tone teasing. "What if we want to leave you a review? Then you can ask for me next time." I straightened, tray tucked against my hip. "The kitchen closes in an hour, so if you're hungry, we're fine." The third man cut off his friends, his tone apologetic. "Thank you, Clara. We're all set." I retreated toward the bar, releasing a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. The attention wasn't aggressive, not really, but years of service work had calibrated my internal warning system. I knew the difference between harmless flirting and something that could become a problem. "Clara." Marco appeared at my elbow, his expression tight. "Office. Now." My stomach dropped. In 3 months, I'd never been called to the office. I ran through my recent shifts, trying to identify what I'd done wrong. Had I miscounted a till? Served the wrong pour? Said something to offend a customer? The office sat at the back of the bar, accessed through a door marked private that I'd never had reason to pass through. Marco knocked once, then pushed it open without waiting for a response. The room was smaller than I expected, dominated by a desk of dark wood and a leather chair that faced away from the door, looking out over the bar through a one-way mirror that gave a perfect view of the entire floor. I could see Table 7 from here, see myself approaching with their drinks, see everything that had just transpired. "Mr. Moretti wanted to speak with you." Marco's voice had lost its impatience, replaced with something that might have been concern or warning. "I'll be at the bar if you need anything." He left before I could respond, the door clicking shut behind him with a finality that made my pulse quicken. The chair turned slowly, revealing the man I'd only ever seen from a distance. Enzo Moretti was 32, according to the whispered conversations among the staff, though he carried himself with the authority of someone much older. Dark hair, dark eyes, features that could have belonged to a Renaissance painting, if not for the hardness around his mouth, the alertness in his gaze that suggested he missed nothing. He wore a black shirt, with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms marked with scars that told stories I suspected I didn't want to know. No tie, no jacket. He dressed like someone who didn't need formal clothes to command respect. The bar was his, along with half a dozen other businesses in the city, though the specifics of his empire remained deliberately vague among the staff. Clara. My name in his voice sounded different, the syllables given weight. Sit. It wasn't a request. I lowered myself into the chair across from his desk, my hands folded in my lap to keep them from shaking. The door was behind me. Marco on the other side, but somehow the office felt impossibly isolated. You've been working here for 3 months. He didn't phrase it as a question, but I nodded anyway. Marco says you're reliable. You show up on time, you don't steal, you don't cause problems with the customers. I try to do my job well, Mr. Moretti. Enzo. He leaned forward slightly, elbows on the desk. When we're alone, you call me Enzo. The instruction felt dangerous in a way I couldn't articulate. Enzo, I repeated, the name unfamiliar on my tongue. The men at table 7. He gestured toward the one-way mirror. They were bothering you. No. I shook my head quickly. They were just being friendly. It wasn't, don't lie to protect them. His voice remained calm, but something in his eyes shifted, darkened. I saw your face. You were uncomfortable. How long had he been watching? The thought made my skin prickle with awareness. It was nothing I couldn't handle. Really, they backed off when I stayed professional. This time. He studied me with an intensity that made me want to look away, but I forced myself to hold his gaze. Tell me something, Clara. Why do you work here? The question caught me off guard. Because it pays better than my old job, because the tips are good and the schedule is consistent. You need the money. Again, not a question. I hesitated, unsure how much truth was safe to offer. My mother has medical bills. I'm trying to save for school. This job helps with both. Something flickered across his face, there and gone before I could identify it. You're in school? Not yet. I'm taking a year to save up first. Community college, then maybe transfer somewhere if I can afford it. Enzo leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. What do you want to study? Business management. The answer came automatically, the dream I'd been nursing since high school. Maybe hospitality. I like the idea of running a restaurant someday. Something small, where I know all the regulars. Not a bar? I smiled despite myself. Too unpredictable. Restaurants close at reasonable hours. And bars attract the wrong element. His lips curved slightly, not quite a smile. Is that what you think of my establishment, Clara? That it attracts the wrong element? Heat crept up my neck. I didn't mean, I'm teasing you. The almost smile widened fractionally. You're right. Bars do attract a certain type, which is why I'm protective of my staff, especially the ones who smile at customers like they actually give a damn about their day. I blinked at him, unsure how to respond to that observation. You're good at your job. Enzo stood, moving around the desk with a fluid grace that seemed at odds with his size. You remember orders, you read the room, you know when to chat and when to disappear, but you're also young, and you're too trusting. I'm not. Table 7. He gestured toward the mirror again. 2 of those men have records. 1 did time for assault. They're associates of someone I do business with, which is why they're allowed in my bar. But that doesn't mean I want them making my staff uncomfortable. mouth went dry. I didn't know. You shouldn't have to know. He stood close enough now that I could smell his cologne properly, something expensive and subtle that probably cost more than my weekly paycheck. That's my job, but I need you to understand something, Clara. When you work here, you're under my protection. That means if someone makes you uncomfortable, you tell Marco. Or you tell me. Okay. My voice came out smaller than I intended. Say it like you mean it. I straightened my shoulders. If someone makes me uncomfortable, I'll tell Marco or you. Good. He studied me for another long moment, and I fought the urge to fidget under his scrutiny. There's something else. The reason I called you back here. My stomach tightened with renewed anxiety. Did I do something wrong? No. He moved to the window, looking out over his bar. There's an event next month. Anniversary celebration for Vincenzo's. 5 years in business. I'm expanding the permanent staff and I want you on it. Better hours, better pay, consistent schedule. I stared at his back, processing. You're offering me a promotion? I'm offering you security. He turned to face me again. 3 months is usually a trial period. You've proven yourself. But the position comes with expectations. You represent my establishment. You show up. You work hard. You maintain the standards. In return, you get stability. Health insurance. Paid time off. The kind of benefits you need if you're supporting your mother and saving for school. It was too good to be true, which meant there had to be a catch. What's the real reason? His eyebrows lifted slightly. Suspicious. Realistic. I met his gaze. You don't know me. 3 months isn't that long. Why invest in someone who might leave for school in a year? Because good staff are hard to find. He crossed his arms, leaning against the window frame. Because you're good with customers without being a pushover. Because you don't gossip, you don't steal, and you show up when you say you will. In my world, that's rarer than you think. I wanted to believe him. The offer was everything I needed. Stability, insurance for my mother, better pay to accelerate my savings. But accepting meant binding myself more closely to this place. To him. To whatever shadows lurked beneath the polished surface of Vincenzo's. Can I think about it? You have until Monday. He moved back to his desk, the conversation apparently concluded. Tell Marco to send up the next staff member. We're having this conversation with everyone who's made it past the trial period. I stood, legs unsteady. Thank you for the opportunity. Clara. His voice stopped me at the door. Those men at table 7. They won't bother you again. But if anyone else does, you come to me. Understood? The promise in his words felt both reassuring and dangerous. I nodded, then slipped out of the office, closing the door behind me with trembling hands. Marco waited at the bar, his expression knowing. How'd it go? He offered me a permanent position. And I need to think about it. Marco studied me, then shook his head slightly. Don't think too long. Enzo doesn't make offers twice. I returned to the floor, my mind spinning. The rest of my shift passed in a blur of drink orders and forced smiles. Table 7 left before closing, their tip generous, their goodbyes notably absent of further flirtation. I wondered what Enzo had done, what message he'd sent, and whether I should be grateful or terrified. By the time I finished my closing duties and counted out my tips, the bar had emptied except for Marco and 2 other staff members. I changed out of my work shoes in the break room, my feet thanking me for the relief, and gathered my jacket and purse. The street outside was quieter than when I'd arrived for my shift, the post-midnight lull before the city's early risers began their day. I walked quickly toward the bus stop, hyper-aware of every shadow, every footstep, every car that passed. I didn't notice the black sedan until it pulled alongside me, the window rolling down to reveal Enzo in the driver's seat. Get in. My heart hammered against my ribs. I'm fine walking. It's 1 a.m. and you're alone. Get in the car, Clara. The command in his voice overrode my hesitation. I opened the passenger door and slid into the leather seat, the interior smelling of him and expensive machinery. He pulled away from the curb smoothly. Where do you live? I gave him my address, watching the familiar street slide past outside the window. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken things. You don't have to drive me home. I know. He didn't elaborate, and I didn't push. When he pulled up outside my building, a modest apartment complex that had seen better days, he shifted the car into park, but didn't unlock the doors. The offer I made tonight. His hands remained on the steering wheel, his gaze forward. It's legitimate. I'm not trying to trap you or manipulate you. I need reliable staff, and you've proven you're capable. Then why does it feel like there's more to it? He turned to look at me then, and in the dim light from the street lamp, his eyes seemed darker, almost black. Because you're smart enough to know that nothing is ever simple. But I'm telling you the truth, Clara. Take the job or don't. Either way, you're safe working in my bar. I reached for the door handle. I'll give you my answer Monday. Fair enough. I climbed out of the car, then hesitated, leaning back down to meet his gaze through the open door. Thank you. For the ride. And for whatever you said to Table 7. Don't thank me for doing my job. He waited until I'd closed the door and started toward my building before pulling away, the sedan's taillights disappearing around the corner. I climbed the 3 flights to my apartment, my mind replaying every moment in that office, every word of our conversation. Enzo Moretti was dangerous. That much was obvious. But he was also offering me exactly what I needed, wrapped in a package I wasn't sure I should accept. Monday felt simultaneously too close and impossibly far away. Monday arrived with the weight of decision hanging over me like a storm cloud. I'd spent the weekend helping my mother with her physical therapy exercises, her hands shaking as she gripped the resistance bands, her smile apologetic as always. The medical bills sat in a folder on our kitchen counter, a stack of papers that grew thicker each month despite my payments. The decision had already made itself, really. I just needed to accept it. I arrived at Vincenzo's 30 minutes before my shift, finding Marco in his usual position behind the bar, reviewing inventory sheets. He looked up when I approached, his expression carefully neutral. I'm accepting the position. The words came out steadier than I felt. Whatever Enzo offered, I'm saying yes. Marco's shoulders relaxed fractionally. Good. He's upstairs in the office. He'll want to know directly. The walk to that private door felt longer than it had on Friday. I knocked twice, then entered when his voice called permission. Enzo sat behind his desk, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Italian that I couldn't follow. He gestured for me to sit, finishing his conversation with what sounded like either a threat or a promise. The tone made it hard to distinguish. Clara. He set the phone down, giving me his full attention. Your answer? Yes, I accept the position. Something shifted in his expression, a satisfaction that seemed disproportionate to simply filling a staff position. Good. Marco has your new contract. Health insurance starts immediately. Your schedule will be Tuesday through Saturday, 5 to midnight. Sundays and Mondays off. That's generous. Most service jobs treated days off like a privilege to be earned. I take care of my people. He stood, moving to a filing cabinet and extracting a folder. There are also some additional expectations we need to discuss. My stomach tightened. Here was the catch. The anniversary event next month. He opened the folder, revealing what looked like event planning documents. It's not just a celebration, it's a statement. I'm establishing Vincenzo's as a permanent fixture in this city's social landscape. That means the right people need to be there, and the right impression needs to be made. What does that have to do with me? You'll be working the event, but not as a server. He slid a photograph across the desk. A red dress, elegant and form-fitting, the kind of thing I'd never had occasion to wear. You'll be acting as a hostess, greeting guests, making them feel welcome, representing the establishment. I stared at the photograph, my pulse quickening. I'm not. I don't have experience with that kind of thing. You smile genuinely. You make people feel seen. And you have excellent instincts about when to engage and when to give space. He ticked off the qualities on his fingers. That's exactly the experience I need. The dress and anything else you require will be provided. Consider it part of your uniform for that night. Why me specifically? The question escaped before I could stop it. You have other staff who've been here longer. Enzo was quiet for a moment, his dark eyes studying me with that unsettling intensity. Because you're not jaded yet. You still treat every customer like they matter, even the ones who don't tip. That authenticity is valuable, Clara, especially in a room full of people who spend their lives pretending. The explanation made sense, but something beneath his words felt heavier, more personal. I nodded slowly. Okay, I'll do it. Excellent. He closed the folder. Marco will handle the paperwork. Your first shift under the new arrangement starts tomorrow. I stood to leave, but his voice stopped me at the door again. Clara. He didn't turn from the window. Thank you for trusting me. The words settled into my chest with a warmth I didn't want to examine too closely. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of new routines. The permanent schedule felt like luxury after months of uncertain shifts. I worked Tuesday through Saturday, my hours consistent, my paycheck notably larger. The health insurance meant I could schedule my mother's follow-up appointments without the sick anxiety of wondering how we'd pay. But something else was changing, something I noticed in small increments. Enzo was always there. Not hovering exactly, but present. He'd appear during my shifts, sometimes sitting at the bar with paperwork, sometimes conducting meetings in the corner booth, sometimes just observing from his office window. I felt his attention like a physical thing, a weight on my skin that made me hyper-aware of every movement. He'd ask questions during slow moments. How was my mother's physical therapy progressing? Had I started researching colleges? What did I think about adding a new cocktail to the menu? The conversations felt normal on the surface, but underneath ran a current I couldn't quite name. Other things became clear. The regulars who'd been too friendly in my early weeks suddenly kept perfect distance. No more lingering stares, no more invitations to after-hours parties, no more hands that strayed when passing tips. Marco mentioned once, carefully, that word had gotten around. Clara was under Enzo's protection. Whatever that meant, it worked. I should have been relieved. Instead, I felt marked, claimed in a way I hadn't agreed to. You're overthinking it. Sophie, one of the other permanent staff members, leaned against the bar during a quiet Tuesday evening. Enzo looks out for all of us. You're just new enough to notice it. Does he watch everyone the way he watches me? The question came out before I could filter it. Sophie's expression turned knowing. No. But maybe you should ask yourself why that bothers you. I didn't have an answer. The week before the anniversary event, Enzo called me into his office after closing. The bar had emptied, except for Marco counting the till and Sophie wiping down tables. I climbed the stairs with my usual mixture of apprehension and something else I refused to name. He sat in his usual chair, but this time he looked tired, the sleeves of his black shirt rolled up, shadows under his eyes that suggested too many late nights. Sit. He gestured to the chair across from him. We need to discuss the event. I settled into the familiar seat, waiting. There will be approximately 200 guests. He opened a folder, extracting a list of names. City officials, business owners, some of my personal associates. Your job is to make them feel welcome, but also to observe. Observe what? Who talks to whom? Who seems uncomfortable? Who drinks too much? Who's asking questions they shouldn't? His gaze met mine. You're good at reading people, Clara. I need that skill working for me Saturday night. The request felt like crossing a line. You want me to spy on your guests? I want you to be aware. His voice remained calm. This event is important. There are people who'd like to see me fail, who'd use any opportunity to cause problems. I need eyes I can trust in that room. And you trust me? The question felt absurd, given how little time we'd actually spent together. Yes. The simple answer, delivered without hesitation, made my breath catch. I looked away, studying the one-way mirror that showed the empty bar below. What happens if I see something concerning? You find me or Marco. Discreetly. He leaned forward. Clara, I wouldn't ask this if I didn't think you could handle it, but I need to know you're comfortable with the responsibility. Was I comfortable? No, but refusing felt like it would cost more than agreeing. I'll do it. Good. He closed the folder. The dress will be delivered to your apartment Thursday. If it doesn't fit properly, let Marco know immediately. There's a tailor on retainer. I nodded, standing to leave, but Enzo's voice stopped me once more. Clara. He stood as well, moving around the desk with that predatory grace. I know this isn't what you signed up for. The hostess position, the observation. I'm asking more of you than I ask of most staff. Why me? I found the courage to ask directly. Really? Why am I different? He stood close enough now that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. The office felt smaller, the air thicker. Because you see people, not just customers or obstacles or tools. You see them as human beings who deserve basic kindness. That's rare in my world, Clara. Valuable beyond measure. Your world. I repeated his phrasing. You mean more than just running a bar? Yes. He didn't elaborate, and I didn't push. The moment stretched between us, heavy with unspoken things. Then Enzo stepped back, breaking whatever spell had formed. Get some rest. Saturday will be a long night. I left the office with my heart racing, though I couldn't have explained why. Thursday afternoon, a delivery arrived at my apartment. The box was elegant, unmarked except for my name on a card. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper, was the red dress from the photograph. I lifted it carefully, the fabric a silk blend that felt like water between my fingers. The design was modest enough. No plunging neckline or dangerous slits, but it would hug every curve, leave no room for hiding. A pair of black heels sat at the bottom of the box, the right size, the style classic. My mother appeared in my bedroom doorway, her eyes widening. Clara, that's beautiful. Is it for work? Sort of. I held the dress against myself, studying my reflection. There's an event Saturday. I'm working as a hostess. Your boss must think highly of you. She moved closer, touching the fabric with gentle fingers. This is expensive, sweetheart. I know. The thought made me uncomfortable. It's just for the night. You'll look beautiful. She smiled, that soft expression that always made my chest ache. Your father would be proud of how hard you're working. I hugged her carefully, mindful of her fragile frame. My father had died when I was 12, a workplace accident that left us with insurance money that had run out years ago. His memory felt distant now, more photograph than person. Saturday arrived with clear skies, and my nerves stretched thin. I spent the morning helping my mother with her exercises, then took extra time getting ready. The dress fit perfectly, hugging my waist and hips, the red vibrant against my pale skin. I left my hair down, the blonde waves falling past my shoulders, and kept my makeup simple. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. The cab ride to Vincenzo's felt surreal. The bar had been transformed for the evening, white lights strung along the exposed beams, elegant floral arrangements on every surface, a string quartet setting up in the corner where the DJ usually played. Staff in formal black moved through final preparations, their movements choreographed by Marco's precise instructions. Enzo stood near the bar, deep in conversation with two men in expensive suits. He wore a black suit himself, tailored to perfection, his dark hair styled back from his face. He looked dangerous and sophisticated, every inch the powerful man the whispers claimed him to be. His gaze found me across the room, and everything else seemed to fall away. He excused himself from his conversation, crossing the space with measured steps, his eyes never leaving mine. Clara. My name again, weighted differently in that dress. You look. He didn't finish the sentence, just studied me with an intensity that made my skin feel too warm. Is it appropriate? I smoothed the fabric nervously. For the evening? It's perfect. His voice had dropped lower, rougher. You're perfect. The words hung between us, meaning more than they should. I swallowed hard. Thank you for providing everything. The dress, the shoes. It's nothing. He waved off my gratitude. Come. I want to review the guest list before people arrive. He led me to a quiet corner, standing close enough that I could smell his cologne, feel the heat radiating from his body. For the next 30 minutes, he walked me through names and faces from photographs, pointing out who was important, who might cause trouble, who I should alert him about immediately if they seemed agitated. And if someone makes you uncomfortable personally? His eyes searched mine. Not professionally concerning, but personally? I find you or Marco. No. His hand came to rest on the small of my back, the touch burning through the thin fabric. You find me. Only me. Understood? I nodded, unable to trust my voice. The first guests began arriving at 7. I positioned myself near the entrance, greeting each person with genuine warmth, directing them toward the bar or the hors d'oeuvres. The skills from months of waitressing translated surprisingly well. I remembered faces, made connections, ensured everyone felt welcomed. But I was also watching, noting who gravitated toward whom, who seemed tense, who drank heavily from the start. I saw Enzo working the room with practiced ease, his smile never quite reaching his eyes, his attention constantly scanning his territory. Around 9, I noticed a man lingering near the private hallway that led to Enzo's office. He'd been nursing the same drink for an hour, his conversation with others perfunctory, his focus repeatedly returning to that restricted area. I caught Enzo's attention across the room. He read something in my expression and made his way over with casual efficiency. The man in the gray suit. I kept my voice low. Near the hallway. He's been watching it for the past hour. Enzo's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Marco's cousin. He's supposed to be here, but thank you for noticing. The warmth in his voice suggested I'd passed some kind of test. The evening continued, a carefully orchestrated performance, where I played a role I was still learning. But around 11, as the crowd began to thin, I stepped outside for a breath of air, the alley behind the bar offering momentary escape from the press of bodies and conversation. I didn't hear Enzo follow until he spoke behind me. You did well tonight. I turned to find him leaning against the brick wall, having shed his suit jacket, his shirt's top buttons undone. He looked more like the man I'd grown accustomed to seeing, less polished, more real. Thank you. I wrapped my arms around myself against the cool night air. It was intense. But you handled it. He pushed off the wall, moving closer. You exceeded every expectation, Clara. Everyone's talking about the beautiful hostess who made them feel like they mattered. I just did what you asked. No. He shook his head. You did more. You were yourself, genuine, warm, observant, exactly what I needed. The praise shouldn't have affected me so strongly, but standing in that alley, with his dark eyes focused entirely on me, wearing a dress he'd chosen, having spent an evening representing his establishment, I felt the dynamic between us shift into something I couldn't ignore. Enzo. His name felt dangerous on my tongue. Why did you really want me as the hostess tonight? He studied me for a long moment, something warring behind his expression. Because I wanted you beside me. The confession hung in the air between us, raw and honest in a way that stole my breath. That's not. I struggled to find words. I work for you. This can't. I know. He moved closer, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. I know all the reasons this is complicated, but that doesn't change what I want, Clara. My heart hammered against my ribs. What do you want? His hand came up slowly, giving me time to move away, but I stayed frozen as his fingers brushed along my jaw. Everything. The confession should have terrified me. Instead, standing in that alley with Enzo's fingers tracing the line of my jaw, I felt something shift inside my chest. Not fear, exactly, but a recognition that whatever this was between us had already crossed professional boundaries weeks ago. I can't. The words came out breathless, unconvincing even to my own ears. You're my boss. I need this job. My mother. I know. His thumb brushed across my lower lip, the touch feather-light but devastating. You think I don't understand the position I'm putting you in? I've spent weeks trying to convince myself this is wrong, that I should keep my distance. But then you smile at a customer who doesn't deserve your kindness, or you remember someone's drink order from weeks ago, or you look at me like you're doing right now, and every logical reason disappears. How am I looking at you? My voice barely qualified as a whisper. Like you want me to kiss you. His other hand settled at my waist, anchoring me. Like you've been wanting it as long as I have. I should deny it. Should step back, create distance, remind us both of all the reasons this couldn't happen. Instead, I heard myself ask, how long have you wanted it? The first week you worked here. His admission came rough, honest. You dropped a tray of glasses. They shattered everywhere, and you were so embarrassed, apologizing to everyone while trying to clean it up. Marco was furious, but you just kept smiling, kept making jokes to ease the tension. I watched from my office and thought, this girl is either incredibly naive or incredibly strong. Then I realized you were both, and I was done for. The memory rushed back. My second shift, my hands shaking from exhaustion, the spectacular crash that had made everyone turn and stare. I'd wanted to cry but had laughed instead, had made some comment about making an entrance. Marco had docked my pay for the glasses, but no one had mentioned that Enzo had been watching. You reimbursed me for those glasses. The realization hit me suddenly. Marco said it was policy, but it wasn't, was it? No. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. It wasn't. I placed my palm against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat through the thin fabric of his shirt. This is a terrible idea. Probably. He didn't move away. Tell me to stop, Clara. Tell me you don't feel this too, and I'll walk away. I'll keep our relationship strictly professional. You'll keep your job, your security, everything I promised. But you have to say it convincingly. I opened my mouth to do exactly that, to protect myself and my carefully constructed stability. But the words that came out were completely different. What happens after you kiss me? His sharp intake of breath told me everything. Everything changes. For better or worse. I don't know yet. At least he was honest. But I can promise you this. I take care of what's mine, Clara. And if you let this happen, if you give me permission to pursue what I want, You become mine in ways that go far beyond a job." The possessiveness in his words should have sent me running. Instead, it ignited something low in my stomach, a heat I'd been trying to ignore for weeks. "That sounds like a threat." "It's a promise." His hand tightened at my waist. "I'm not an easy man, Clara. I'm demanding, protective to the point of possessive, and I operate in a world that isn't always legal or safe. But I'm also absolutely certain that I want you in my life, in whatever capacity you'll allow. You barely know me." The protest felt weak. "I know you send half your paycheck to your mother's medical bills. I know you study hospitality management during your breaks, even though you're not enrolled in school yet. I know you prefer tea to coffee, that you're terrified of disappointing people, and that you haven't bought yourself anything new in months because every spare dollar goes toward someone else." His eyes held mine. "I know you better than you think, Clara. The question is whether you want to know me." Did I? The logical answer was no. Enzo Moretti was dangerous in ways I couldn't fully comprehend, tied to businesses and people that operated in shadows. Getting involved with him meant stepping into a world I'd spent my life avoiding. But standing in his arms, feeling the solid reality of him against me, I realized I'd already made my choice weeks ago. Maybe the first time he'd called me into his office. Maybe when he'd driven me home in the rain. Maybe the moment he'd looked at me in this red dress and said I was perfect. I want to know you. The admission felt like jumping off a cliff. But I'm terrified. Good. He leaned down, his breath warm against my lips. Fear means you're paying attention. Now stop thinking and let me kiss you. He gave me one last second to refuse, his gaze searching mine for any sign of hesitation. When I didn't move away, when I lifted onto my toes to close the distance between us, he made a sound low in his throat and captured my mouth with his. The kiss was nothing like I expected. Not gentle or tentative, but claiming. His lips firm against mine, his hand sliding into my hair, tilting my head to deepen the angle. I gasped against his mouth, and he took advantage, his tongue sweeping in to taste me with a thoroughness that made my knees weaken. I gripped his shoulders for balance, feeling the hard muscle beneath my fingers, the leashed strength in the way he held me. He kissed like he did everything else, with absolute certainty and devastating competence, like he'd been planning exactly this moment for weeks and intended to make it memorable. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard, his forehead resting against mine. Tell me you felt that. I felt it. My voice came out shaky, overwhelmed. Enzo, don't overthink it. His thumb traced my swollen lips. Not tonight. Tonight, you're just Clara, and I'm just Enzo, and we're two people who've been dancing around this for too long. And tomorrow? I had to ask, had to understand what came next. Tomorrow, we figure out what this means. But right now, we should get back inside before people notice we're both missing. He was right, but my body didn't want to move. I felt like I'd crossed some invisible line, stepped into territory I couldn't retreat from. When Enzo took my hand, threading his fingers through mine with casual possession, the gesture felt more significant than the kiss. We returned to the bar through the back entrance, and I slipped into the bathroom to compose myself. My reflection showed kiss-swollen lips, flushed cheeks, eyes that looked dazed. I splashed cold water on my face, trying to regain some equilibrium, but the taste of him lingered on my tongue, the memory of his hands on my body. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. I maintained my hostess smile, said goodbye to departing guests, helped coordinate the cleanup. But I was hyper-aware of Enzo's presence, the weight of his gaze following me around the room. Every time our eyes met, heat flooded through me, the memory of that kiss playing on repeat. By 1 a.m, only staff remained. Marco dismissed everyone with thanks and reminders about Monday's schedule. I changed out of the red dress in the staff bathroom, carefully hanging it on the provided hanger, then emerged in my street clothes to find Enzo waiting near the back exit. "I'm driving you home." Again, not a request. This time, I didn't argue. The drive passed in charged silence. When he pulled up outside my building, he shifted the car into park but made no move to unlock the doors. "Clara." His hand found mine across the console. I meant what I said earlier, about taking care of what's mine. That protection extends beyond work hours now. I'm not property to be protected. I had to establish that boundary, had to make sure he understood. "No." His agreement came quick. "You're not property. You're something infinitely more valuable. And that's precisely why I'll do whatever necessary to keep you safe." Safe from what? The question escaped before I could stop it. "What exactly is dangerous about your world, Enzo?" He was quiet for a long moment, his thumb tracing circles on the back of my hand. "The less you know, the safer you are. But I won't lie to you, Clara. My businesses aren't all legitimate. Some of my associates are dangerous men, and there are people who'd use anyone close to me as leverage." "Then, maybe this is a mistake." The words hurt to say. "Maybe we should go back to boss and employee before things get more complicated." "It's already complicated." He lifted my hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to my knuckles. "The moment I decided I wanted you, you became a target. Whether we pursue this or not doesn't change that reality. At least if you're with me, I can protect you properly." The logic was twisted, possessive, and probably designed to keep me close. But I heard the underlying truth. I'd caught the attention of a dangerous man, and my safety now depended on proximity to the very thing that made me unsafe. "This is insane." I pulled my hand away, reaching for the door handle. "I need to think." "Take all the time you need." He unlocked the doors. "But Clara, I'm not patient, and I don't share. If you decide you want this, want me, understand that it means exclusively. No other men, no dating apps, no hedging your bets." The possessive declaration should have been a red flag. Instead, it sent a thrill through me that I absolutely wasn't ready to examine. "Good night, Enzo." I climbed out of the car and hurried toward my building, feeling his gaze on me until I disappeared through the entrance. Only when I reached my apartment did I allow myself to process everything that had happened. My mother was asleep, the living room dark except for the glow from the muted television. I stood in the doorway, watching her peaceful expression, thinking about all the reasons I should run from Enzo Moretti. But I was already tangled in his web, caught by my own attraction and his overwhelming certainty. The question wasn't whether I'd fall further. It was how much I'd lose in the process. I didn't see Enzo for 3 days after the anniversary event. His absence felt deliberate, like he was giving me the space he'd promised to think things through. But the space only made everything worse. My thoughts circled obsessively around that kiss, his words, the weight of his attention. Tuesday, I returned to my regular shift with a nervous energy I couldn't shake. The bar felt different now, charged with new meaning. Every corner where I'd seen him standing, every table I'd served while feeling his eyes on me, every inch of space carried the memory of before and the weight of what could come after. Marco noticed immediately. "You look rattled," he observed while I was stocking garnishes before opening. "Everything okay?" "Fine." The lie came automatically. "Just tired." He studied me with knowing eyes. "Whatever's going on between you and the boss, be careful. Enzo's not like other men. When he wants something, he doesn't stop until he gets it. And once he has it, he doesn't let go." The warning settled into my chest like a stone. "There's nothing going on." "Sure." Marco's skepticism was evident. "Just remember, you're not the first woman to catch his attention, but you might be the first one he's actually pursuing. That makes you either incredibly lucky or incredibly unfortunate." Time will tell which. Before I could respond, the front door opened for the first evening customers, and the conversation ended. But Marco's words haunted me throughout my shift. Was I just another conquest for Enzo? Or was there something genuine beneath his intensity? The answer came Thursday night. I was wiping down the bar during a lull when I felt the shift in atmosphere that always preceded Enzo's arrival. I looked up to find him standing near the entrance, his expression unreadable, wearing his usual black shirt and slacks that somehow looked more expensive than anyone else's formal wear. Our eyes met across the room, and everything else faded into background noise. He approached slowly, his gaze never leaving mine, until he stood across the bar from me. Clara, my name, waited with everything unspoken between us. Enzo. I set down my cloth, hyper-aware of my racing pulse. I wasn't expecting you tonight. I gave you space. He leaned against the bar, his posture casual, but his eyes intense. 3 days to think, have you? About nothing else. The honesty escaped before I could filter it. And? I glanced around, conscious of the other patrons, of Marco watching from the corner. This isn't the place for this conversation. My office, now. He straightened, already turning toward the back. I followed on unsteady legs, climbing those familiar stairs to the room where everything had started to change. Enzo closed the door behind us, creating instant intimacy, instant pressure. Tell me what you decided. He didn't move from the door, giving me space but blocking the exit. No more dancing around it. I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to find the right words. I keep making lists in my head, all the reasons this is a terrible idea versus all the reasons I can't stop thinking about it. And which list is winning? Neither. I met his gaze. They're tied, which is probably its own answer. He crossed the room in 3 strides, cupping my face between his hands with a gentleness that contradicted his intensity. Then let me tip the scales. I want you, Clara. Not just physically, though God knows I think about that constantly. I want you in my life, in my space, in my days. I want to drive you home from work every night and know you're safe. I want to hear about your mother's progress and your school plans and what annoyed you about Table 7. I want everything, and I want it exclusively. That's not normal. My protest came out weak. People don't decide they want everything after a few weeks and 1 kiss. Normal people don't. His thumb brushed my cheekbone. But I'm not normal, Clara. I see what I want. I assess the risks, and I move forward. You're what I want. The question is whether you're brave enough to want me back. I am afraid. The admission felt important. Of you. Of this. Of what it means. Good. He leaned his forehead against mine. Use that fear. Let it keep you alert, keep you safe. But don't let it keep you from living. I closed my eyes, breathing in his scent, feeling the solid reality of him. If I say yes, if we try this, what does it look like? Do I keep working here? Do we tell people? What are the rules? You keep your job unless you decide you want something different. We don't broadcast our relationship, but we don't hide it either. The rules are simple: honesty, exclusivity, and trust. His hand slid down to my waist. I'll never lie to you about who I am or what I do. In return, I need you to trust that I'll keep you safe, even when you don't understand my methods. That's a lot of trust for someone I barely know. Then get to know me. The challenge was clear in his voice. Dinner tomorrow. Not at Vincenzo's, not as boss and employee, just 2 people on a date. A date. I repeated the word, testing its normalcy against the strangeness of the situation. Like normal people. Like normal people. His lips curved slightly. I'll pick you up at 7. Wear something comfortable. No red dress required, though I wouldn't complain. The memory of that dress, of how he'd looked at me wearing it, sent heat flooding through me. Okay, 1 date. Then we reassess. 1 date. He agreed too easily, like he knew one would lead to many more. Now kiss me before you go back to work, because I've been thinking about nothing else for 3 days. This kiss was different from the one in the alley, slower, deeper, more deliberate. His hand stayed at my waist, respectful of boundaries, but his mouth explored mine with a thoroughness that left me breathless and aching. When we finally pulled apart, I felt unsteady, drunk on sensation. I should get back to the floor. You should. He didn't let go immediately. But Clara, this changes things. Marco and the others will notice. Are you ready for that? No, I answered honestly. But I'm doing it anyway. His smile was genuine this time, transforming his face into something younger, less dangerous. That's my girl. The possessive endearment should have bothered me. Instead, it made my heart skip. I returned to the bar floor with my lips swollen, and my defenses thoroughly demolished. Marco took one look at me and shook his head, but he didn't comment. Sophie, however, cornered me during a lull. You're glowing. She studied me with knowing eyes. Which means either you won the lottery, or you finally gave in to the boss's attention. I have a date tomorrow. The words felt surreal leaving my mouth. With Enzo, a real date. Oh, honey. Sophie's expression mixed concern with something that might have been pity. You're in so deep already. Just promise me you'll be careful. Men like Enzo don't do casual. I know. And I did know. Every instinct warned me that whatever this was with Enzo would consume me if I let it. But I'm doing it anyway. Then for what it's worth, I hope it works out. She squeezed my shoulder. You deserve happiness, Clara. Even if it comes in a dangerous package. The rest of my shift passed in a haze. I caught Enzo watching me from his office window several times, his gaze a physical weight that made my skin prickle with awareness. When midnight came, and I finished my closing duties, he was waiting by the back exit. Ready? He held out his hand, the gesture both casual and significant. I placed my palm in his, feeling his fingers close around mine with that now familiar possessiveness. This is going to be complicated, isn't it? Probably. He led me toward his car. But the best things usually are. Friday, I spent more time choosing an outfit than I'd spent on any decision in months. Nothing in my closet felt right. Too casual, too formal, too much, not enough. I finally settled on dark jeans and a soft cream sweater, practical ballet flats, my hair loose around my shoulders. My mother noticed my anxiety. You look beautiful, sweetheart. Where are you going? Dinner. I kept it vague. With someone from work. Her knowing smile suggested she heard what I didn't say. Is he nice? I think so. The honesty felt important. But he's also complicated. The good ones usually are. She patted my hand. Just be smart, Clara. And remember, you're worth being treated well. Enzo arrived precisely at 7, parking outside my building and coming to the door like an actual date. When I opened it, I found him wearing dark jeans and a button-down shirt. Still expensive. Still perfectly fitted, but more casual than I'd ever seen him. You look beautiful. His gaze traveled over me with open appreciation. Ready? Where are we going? I grabbed my jacket, calling goodbye to my mother. Somewhere we can talk without interruption. He placed his hand at the small of my back, guiding me toward his car. Somewhere neutral, where you might relax enough to actually get to know me. The restaurant he chose was Italian, family-owned, tucked into a neighborhood I didn't recognize. The interior was warm and intimate, checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles, the scent of garlic and tomato sauce filling the air. This is your spot? I asked as a server led us to a secluded corner booth. My parents used to bring me here when I was a kid. Enzo settled across from me, suddenly looking younger, more vulnerable. Before everything got complicated, it's one of the few places in this city where I can just be Enzo, not Moretti. The glimpse into his past felt significant. Tell me about them, your parents. His expression shuddered slightly. My father built the businesses I inherited. Started with legitimate restaurants and bars, then expanded into less legal territory when money got tight. He justified it as protecting the family, providing opportunities. My mother tried to pretend she didn't know what he really did. Past tense, I noted gently. They died when I was 24. His voice remained steady, but I heard the undercurrent of pain. Car accident. Probably not an accident, but that's what the police report said. I inherited everything. The legitimate businesses, the criminal enterprises, the debts, the enemies. I'm sorry. The words felt inadequate, but I meant them. It's been 8 years. I've made peace with it. He paused as the server took our order, then continued. But it shaped everything that came after. I built Vincenzo's as a tribute to my father, named it after him. Tried to create something clean, something legitimate that he would have been proud of. But you kept the other businesses too. Not an accusation, just an observation. Yes. He met my gaze steadily. Because walking away from that world isn't as simple as deciding to be better. There are obligations, debts, relationships that can't just be dissolved. I've been trying to legitimize everything slowly, but it's a process that takes years, maybe decades. The honesty was more than I expected. Why are you telling me this? Because you asked me to give you reasons to trust me. This is me being transparent about who I am and what I come from. He reached across the table, taking my hand. I won't lie to you about my life, Clara. But I need you to understand the reality. Being with me means accepting some darkness. How much darkness? I had to know. Are we talking tax evasion or people getting hurt? Both. The admission came without hesitation. I try to minimize violence, but sometimes it's necessary for protection or sending messages. The money laundering, the illegal gambling, the deals with people who operate outside the law, that's all real. I won't pretend otherwise. I should have pulled my hand away, should have stood up and walked out. But his brutal honesty felt like a gift, like he was trusting me with truths that could destroy him. Do you hurt innocent people? The question felt crucial. No. His answer was immediate, certain. My businesses, even the illegal ones, operate on consent. People choose to gamble, choose to work for me, choose to do business with me. I don't traffic, I don't exploit, and I don't target civilians. Those are my lines. But you've hurt people who crossed you. Yes. No apology, no justification. And I probably will again if someone threatens what's mine. What's mine? The phrasing included me now, wrapped me into his possessive worldview. I don't know if I can be okay with violence. I'm not asking you to be okay with it. His thumb traced circles on my palm. I'm asking you to understand that it's part of who I am. But I will never bring that violence near you, Clara. You exist in a separate space, protected, clean, safe. Can those spaces really stay separate? I asked. Or will I inevitably get pulled into the darkness? That depends on you. He squeezed my hand. I can control what you're exposed to, but I can't control whether you choose to look deeper, to ask questions about things better left alone. The boundaries are yours to set. Our food arrived, interrupting the heavy conversation. We ate in companionable silence for a few minutes, the familiar ritual of sharing a meal easing some of the tension. Tell me something lighter, I finally said. Something about you that has nothing to do with your businesses or your past. He considered the request. I'm terrible at cooking. Can't even make pasta without burning it, which is ironic given my heritage. The admission made me smile. Really? You seem like you'd be good at everything. Competence in business doesn't translate to competence in the kitchen. His lips curved. What about you? What's something I don't know? I love old movies. The confession came easily. Black and white ones from the 40s and 50s. Casablanca, Roman Holiday, The Philadelphia Story. I watch them when I can't sleep. Why those specifically? Because they're elegant. The women are smart and complicated. The romances are sophisticated and everyone dresses well. I played with my pasta. It's escapism, I guess. A world where problems get resolved in 2 hours and love conquers all. Love is messier in real life, his observation was gentle. But maybe that makes it more valuable. Maybe. I met his gaze. Is that what this is? Love? Not yet. His honesty was refreshing. But it could be, if we let it. The possibility hung between us, terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. The weeks that followed the first date blurred into a pattern I'd never experienced. Work at Vincenzo's 4 nights a week, dinners with Enzo at least 3 of those nights, stolen moments in his office that left me breathless and aching for more. He kept his word about boundaries, never pushing physically beyond heated kisses, but the emotional intimacy grew with startling speed. I learned small things. That Enzo took his coffee black with 1 sugar. That he couldn't sit through a movie without checking his phone. That he had a scar along his ribs from a knife fight when he was 19. He learned that I talked to myself when stressed. That I had an irrational fear of elevators. That my father had loved jazz music, and I still couldn't listen to it without crying. Come upstairs with me. Enzo's hand found mine across the bar during a quiet Tuesday evening. I want to show you something. I followed him to his office, expecting another stolen kiss, another conversation that peeled back more layers. Instead, he led me to the one-way mirror and stood behind me, his chest warm against my back, his arms bracketing me against the glass. What do you see? His voice rumbled near my ear. I studied the bar floor below. Sophie taking an order, Marco restocking bottles, a dozen customers scattered at tables. People going about their evening? Look closer. His hands settled on my hips, holding me in place. Tell me what you really see. I focused, applying the observational skills he'd been teaching me. Table 4 is celebrating something. Anniversary, maybe? Based on how they keep touching hands. The man at the bar is drinking too much too fast. Probably had a bad day. Sophie's tired. She keeps rolling her shoulders. Marco's watching someone who's making him nervous. Who? Enzo's voice held approval. I scanned the room, finding the source. The woman in the corner booth. Mid-30s, expensive clothes, alone but not nervous about it. She keeps looking at her phone, then at the entrance. She's waiting for someone. Very good. His lips brushed my temple. She's a federal prosecutor, and the person she's waiting for is my lawyer. My stomach tightened. Why is a federal prosecutor meeting your lawyer in your bar? Because she wants something from me. Information about one of my competitors in exchange for looking the other way on some of my businesses. His voice remained calm, matter of fact. It's how the game works, Clara. Everyone pretends the law matters, but really, it's just negotiation. I turned in his arms, needing to see his face. Are you going to give her what she wants? Depends on what she's offering. He tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. Why do you look worried? Because prosecutors don't just casually meet with people they're investigating. She's building a case, and you're walking into it. I'm aware. His smile was cold, calculating. But I'm also 3 steps ahead of her. My lawyer knows exactly what to offer, what to withhold, and how to make her think she's winning while getting nothing useful. The casual manipulation should have disturbed me. Instead, I found myself reluctantly impressed by his strategic mind. You think like a chess player. Because life is a chess game. His hands tightened on my waist. Every move has consequences. Every relationship is a potential asset or liability. Every conversation is a negotiation. Is that what we are? The question escaped before I could stop it. A negotiation. Something shifted in his expression, the calculation giving way to something more genuine. No. You're the one thing in my life that isn't strategic. You're pure want, Clara. No agenda, no calculation. Just this insane need that I can't rationalize or control. The confession settled into my chest with warmth I didn't want to examine too closely. That sounds uncomfortable for someone who likes control. It is. He leaned down, his lips hovering over mine, but I'm learning to live with it. The kiss started gentle but quickly deepened, his hands sliding under my work shirt to touch bare skin, my fingers tangling in his hair. We stayed like that for long minutes, the bar continuing below us, the prosecutor waiting in her corner booth, the world moving forward while we existed in our private bubble. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Enzo rested his forehead against mine. Come home with me tonight. The invitation hung in the air, weighted with implication. Enzo. Not for sex. He cut off my protest. Just to see where I live, to spend time in my space. I want you there, Clara. I want to fall asleep knowing you're in the next room and wake up knowing I can see you over coffee. That's more intimate than sex. The observation came out soft. I know. His hands cupped my face. But I'm asking anyway. Stay with me tonight. Let me take care of you for once instead of you always taking care of everyone else. The offer was tempting beyond measure. When was the last time someone had taken care of me? My mother needed constant attention. My job demanded constant vigilance. My finances required constant management. The idea of surrendering that burden, even temporarily, felt like oxygen after years underwater. Okay. The agreement surprised us both. But I need to check on my mother first, make sure she's set for the night. I'll drive you. Already moving toward solutions, toward making it happen. We'll stop by your apartment, you pack an overnight bag, we check on your mother, then we leave. The efficiency should have felt controlling. Instead, it felt like relief. We left through the back exit, Marco receiving brief instructions about closing. The drive to my apartment passed in comfortable silence, Enzo's hand resting on my thigh, the gesture casual but possessive. My mother was surprised when I explained I'd be staying at a friend's place, but she smiled knowingly and told me to have fun. I packed quickly. Toiletries, clean clothes for tomorrow, my phone charger. Hyper-aware of Enzo waiting in the living room, making small talk with my mother like this was normal. He's very polite, my mother whispered when I kissed her goodbye. And handsome. But Clara, be careful. That's a man who knows exactly what he wants. I know, Mom. I hugged her gently. I'll be fine. Enzo's home was 20 minutes outside the city, a converted warehouse in an industrial district that had been gentrified into expensive lofts. The exterior looked unassuming, but the interior revealed his wealth. Exposed brick, floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture that probably cost more than my annual salary. This is where you live. I turned in a slow circle, taking in the space. It's beautiful. It's secure. He set my bag down near the door. Cameras, reinforced locks, panic room in the back. I can work from here safely. The reminder of the danger inherent in his life sent a chill through me. Has anyone ever tried to break in? Once, they regretted it. His tone suggested I shouldn't ask for details. But that was years ago, before I established clear boundaries with my competitors. Now everyone knows this space is off limits. He gave me a tour, the main living area, a gourmet kitchen he admitted he never used, a home office with multiple monitors and filing cabinets that probably contained incriminating evidence, and finally the bedroom. The king-size bed dominated the space, dressed in black linens that matched the austere aesthetic. "Guest room is through there." He pointed to an adjoining door. "But I'm hoping you'll stay in here with me." "To sleep?" I clarified, needing the boundary clear. "To sleep." His confirmation came without hesitation. "I told you, Clara, I'm not pushing for sex. I just want you close." The emotional intimacy felt more vulnerable than physical nakedness would have. "Okay. But I'm wearing pajamas, and you're staying on your side of the bed." "Deal." His smile was genuine, boyish almost. "Now, are you hungry? I can order food." We ended up on his couch with Thai takeout, some action movie playing on the massive television that neither of us really watched. Instead, we talked about my dreams of running a small restaurant, about his plans to expand Vincenzo's into a chain, about movies we loved and foods we hated, and childhood memories that shaped who we'd become. My father taught me to fight when I was 8. Enzo's admission came during a lull in conversation. Said I needed to protect myself, that the world was dangerous for people like us. I thought he was paranoid. Then I got jumped at 12, and I understood. That's young to learn that lesson. I shifted closer, drawn by the vulnerability in his voice. It made me who I am. His arm came around my shoulders, pulling me against his side. Hard, suspicious, always 3 steps ahead. But with you, Clara, I don't want to be that person. I want to just be Enzo, the guy who can't cook and watches too many action movies and thinks you're the most beautiful woman he's ever met. The confession made my throat tight. I don't know how to be what you need. You already are. He pressed a kiss to my temple. Just by being here, by choosing me despite everything you know about my life. That's more than enough. We stayed like that until I couldn't keep my eyes open, exhaustion from the long day catching up. Enzo led me to his bedroom, gave me privacy to change into my pajamas, then climbed into bed beside me wearing only boxer briefs. "Come here." He pulled me against his chest, my back to his front, his arm secure around my waist. "Sleep, Cara. You're safe." The Italian endearment, the warmth of his body, the steady rhythm of his breathing, it all combined to create a sense of security I'd never experienced. Despite my nervousness, despite the strangeness of being in his bed, I fell asleep within minutes. I woke to sunlight streaming through windows I didn't recognize, to the unfamiliar weight of an arm around my waist, to the scent of sandalwood and warm skin. For a moment, panic seized me. Then memory returned. Enzo's home, his bed, the decision to stay. I turned carefully, finding him still asleep beside me, his face relaxed in a way I'd never seen while awake. He looked younger like this, less dangerous, almost peaceful. Some part of me wanted to memorize this moment, to capture the vulnerability before his walls went back up. His eyes opened slowly, focusing on me with immediate awareness. "Morning, beautiful." "Morning." My voice came out rough with sleep. "What time is it?" "Early. 7, maybe." He pulled me closer, nuzzling into my hair. "We don't have to get up yet." "Don't you have work?" I asked, even as I relaxed into his embrace. "I own the businesses. I can take a morning off." His hand traced lazy patterns on my back. "Besides, having you in my bed is more important than any meeting." The easy intimacy of it, the domestic comfort, felt both natural and terrifying. This was what it would be like to be with Enzo. Mornings in his bed, coffee in his kitchen, my life gradually intertwining with his until separating became impossible. What are you thinking? He tipped my chin up, reading something in my expression. That this feels real. The admission came soft. Not just exciting or dangerous, but actually real. Like we could be something. We are something. His certainty was absolute. We've been something since that first night you served table 7 and handled them like a professional while dying inside. I've just been waiting for you to catch up. Arrogant. I smiled despite myself. Confident. He corrected, then kissed me with a thoroughness that left no doubt about his feelings. We stayed in bed another hour, talking and kissing and existing in that perfect bubble before reality intruded. Eventually, hunger drove us to the kitchen, where Enzo proved his earlier claim about cooking inability by burning eggs, while I laughed and took over. I could get used to this. He watched me work with obvious appreciation. You, in my kitchen, making breakfast. It's domestic heaven. Don't get ahead of yourself. I plated the eggs and toast. This is one morning, not a permanent arrangement. Yet. His smile promised future mornings just like this. Give me time, Clara. I'll convince you that permanent is exactly what we both want. The shift in our relationship became undeniable over the following weeks. Enzo stopped pretending to maintain professional distance at work. His hand would find the small of my back when he passed. His gaze would track me across the room with open possessiveness, and the staff quickly learned that Clara was off limits for teasing or complaints. You know people are talking. Sophie cornered me during a bathroom break 4 weeks after that first overnight stay. About you and Enzo. About how you basically live at his place now. I don't live there. The protest was automatic, though increasingly untrue. 3 nights a week had become 4, then 5. My mother had stopped pretending surprise when I called to check in from Enzo's phone. Sure. Sophie's skepticism was evident. And that hickey on your neck is from a curling iron accident. My hand flew to my neck, finding the tender spot Enzo had marked the night before. That's none of my business. She raised her hands. I'm not judging, Clara. Honestly, you seem happy. Happier than I've ever seen you. Just be careful, okay? Men like Enzo don't do casual, and they definitely don't let go easily once they've decided you're theirs. I know. And I did know. Every day with Enzo made the boundaries between us blur further. My clothes had migrated to his closet, my toiletries to his bathroom, my presence to every corner of his life. The night everything changed started ordinarily enough. I'd finished my shift at Vincenzo's and was changing in the back room when I heard raised voices from the main floor. Unusual for this late, after closing, when only staff remained. I emerged cautiously to find Enzo standing near the bar with 3 men I'd never seen before. The tension was immediate and palpable, the air thick with barely controlled violence. I told you. My answer is no. Enzo's voice remained calm, but his posture screamed danger. Find another route for your shipments. You don't get to say no, Moretti. The largest of the 3 men stepped closer, invading Enzo's space with deliberate aggression. We had an arrangement with your father. That arrangement extends to you. My father's arrangements died with him. Enzo didn't back down. I'm not moving drugs through my establishments. Find someone else to compromise. The man's laugh was cold. You think you can just walk away from the family business? You think declaring yourself legitimate makes it true? I should have stayed hidden. Should have slipped out the back and called for help. Instead, I stepped forward, drawn by some instinct I didn't understand. Enzo, every head turned toward me. The shift in atmosphere was immediate, the men's expressions calculating, Enzo's hardening with fury that I'd revealed myself. Well, well. The large man's gaze traveled over me with predatory interest. Who's this? New employee? Or something more personal? Leave. Enzo's voice dropped to deadly quiet. Now, before this becomes a problem you can't solve. I don't think so. The man took a step toward me, and everything exploded into motion. Enzo moved with frightening speed, his fist connecting with the man's jaw before I could even process the threat. The other two men surged forward, and suddenly the bar erupted into violence, bodies colliding, glass shattering, furniture crashing. I backed against the wall, frozen by shock and fear. This wasn't the controlled danger I'd glimpsed in Enzo before. This was raw violence, the reality of his world made visceral and terrifying. Marco appeared from somewhere, joining the fight with practiced efficiency. Between him and Enzo, the three intruders were subdued quickly. One unconscious on the floor, another clutching a broken nose, the third restrained by Marco's arm around his throat. "Get them out." Enzo's voice was ice cold, his knuckles bleeding, a cut above his eyebrow dripping blood down his face. "And spread the word. Anyone who comes at me through my businesses or my people will regret it." Marco dragged the men toward the exit while Enzo turned to face me, his expression unreadable. "You shouldn't have come out here." I heard shouting. My voice shook. I was worried. Worried. He crossed to me in 3 strides, his hands gripping my shoulders, the blood on his knuckles smearing onto my work shirt. "Clara, when there's trouble, you hide. You run. You call for help. You don't walk into the middle of it." They were threatening you. Some stubborn part of me refused to back down. Was I supposed to just listen while... Yes. The word came out harsh. Because now they know about you. They saw your face, Clara. They know you matter to me. Do you understand what that means? The fury in his voice, the fear beneath it, made something click into place. I'd become a liability, a target, a weakness in his armor. "I'm sorry." The apology came soft. "I didn't think..." "No, you didn't." He released me abruptly, running a hand through his hair, leaving blood streaked through the dark strands. "Damn it, Clara. This is exactly what I was trying to protect you from." Maybe I don't want to be protected. The word surprised us both. Maybe I want to know all of you, even the parts that are dangerous. You don't know what you're saying. He turned away, his shoulders rigid with tension. This isn't some romantic danger, Clara. These are men who would use you to hurt me, who would threaten you, or worse, to get leverage. And now they know exactly where to find you. Then we deal with it. I moved closer, touching his back despite his withdrawal. Together. He spun to face me, his expression a mixture of anger and something that looked like fear. "There is no together in this, Clara. You stay separate, stay clean, stay safe. That's the only way this works." "Is it?" I challenged, finding courage I didn't know I possessed, because it seems like the separation is what makes me vulnerable. If I'm with you, openly, then I'm under your protection. Isn't that what you've been saying all along? That was before they saw you. His voice broke slightly. Before they knew how much you mean to me. The confession hung between us, more significant than any declaration of love. I stepped closer, placing my palm over his heart, feeling it race beneath my touch. "Then teach me. Teach me how to exist in your world safely. Show me the rules, the dangers, the escape routes. But don't shut me out, Enzo. Not now." He stared at me for a long moment, warring with himself, with his instinct to protect versus his need to keep me close. Finally, he pulled me into his arms, holding me tight enough that I could barely breathe. "You're going to drive me insane." His voice rumbled against my hair. Stubborn, fearless, completely unwilling to be sensible. Is that a yes? I pulled back enough to see his face. It's a conditional yes. His hands cupped my face, thumbs tracing my cheekbones. You move in with me, officially. No more splitting time between my place and your apartment. You stay where I can protect you properly. That's a big ask. My heart hammered at the implication. It's non-negotiable. His certainty was absolute. After tonight, after they saw you, there's no going back to casual, Clara. You're mine now, completely. And that means you live under my protection, in my home, in my life. The possessiveness should have frightened me. Instead, it sent a thrill through my system that I'd stopped trying to rationalize. What about my mother? We hire a full-time caregiver. Someone vetted, someone trustworthy. Your mother gets better care than you can provide while working, and you get peace of mind. Already solving problems, already 3 steps ahead. I'll pay for everything, the caregiver, her medical bills, whatever she needs. I can't let you do that. Pride made me protest. You can and you will. His tone brooked no argument. Because I take care of what's mine, Clara. Your mother is important to you, which makes her important to me. This isn't negotiable either. I should have fought harder, should have insisted on maintaining some independence. But standing in his arms, with the evidence of violence still scattered around the bar, I recognized the truth. I was already his. Had been since that first kiss in the alley, maybe even before. The only question was whether I'd fight the inevitable or surrender to it. Okay. The agreement came soft. I'll move in. Relief flooded his expression, followed by something darker, more possessive. Say it properly. Say you're mine. I'm yours. The words felt like a vow, a promise, a point of no return, completely. His kiss was claiming, desperate, tinged with the adrenaline of violence and the fear of loss. I kissed him back with equal intensity, tasting blood and need, and something that felt dangerously close to love. When we finally broke apart, Marco had returned, his expression carefully neutral as he surveyed the damage. Cops are handled. I told them it was a break-in, nothing more. They'll file a report and forget about it. Good. Enzo didn't release me, keeping me anchored against his side. Clara's moving in with me. Starting tonight. Get her things from her apartment tomorrow. Marco's eyebrows rose slightly, but he nodded. Understood. Anything else? Yes. Enzo's voice hardened. Find out who sent those men, and why they thought they could threaten me in my own establishment. I want names, addresses, and leverage by morning. On it. Marco left, and we were alone in the trashed bar, surrounded by broken glass and overturned furniture. Come on. Enzo guided me toward the back exit. We're going home. The drive passed in charged silence. Enzo's knuckles were white on the steering wheel, his jaw tight with residual tension. I watched him from the passenger seat, cataloging the cut above his eyebrow, the bruise forming along his jaw, the blood drying on his hands. This was the man I'd agreed to bind my life to, violent when necessary, ruthless in protection, operating in shadows most people pretended didn't exist. But he was also the man who held me gently, who remembered my coffee order, who wanted me in his space so completely that he'd rearrange his entire life to make it happen. Stop looking at me like that. His voice cut through my observation. Like what? Like you're seeing me for the first time. He glanced over, his expression unreadable. Like you're deciding whether I'm worth the risk. I've already decided. The truth came easy. I decided weeks ago. Tonight just made it official. Something shifted in his expression, the hardness softening into something more vulnerable. I don't deserve you, Clara. You're too good, too kind, too everything. But I'm keeping you anyway. Because I'm selfish and possessive, and I can't imagine my life without you in it anymore." "Then don't." I reached across the console, taking his hand despite the dried blood. "Don't imagine it. Just keep me." His fingers tightened around mine with bruising intensity. "Forever. That's not a figure of speech, Kara. I mean forever." The promise should have terrified me. Instead, it settled into my chest with the weight of certainty, of rightness, of coming home. We reached his loft, and Enzo led me inside with careful attention, as if I might break. He cleaned his wounds in the bathroom while I watched, learning the ritual, the practiced efficiency that spoke of too much experience with violence. "Enzo." I stopped his hands as he reached for bandages. "Teach me. Show me how to do this." He studied me for a long moment, then nodded, guiding my hands through cleaning and bandaging the cuts properly. The intimacy of it, the trust required to tend his injuries, felt more significant than any sexual act would have been. When we finally crawled into bed, our bed now, permanently, Enzo pulled me against his chest with possessive certainty. "No more separate spaces. No more splitting time. You're here. With me? Always." "Always," I agreed, the word both promise and surrender. His lips found my temple, my cheek, finally my mouth in a kiss that spoke of relief and possession, and something deeper that neither of us was quite ready to name. "I love you." The confession came rough, unexpected. "I know it's too soon. I know you're not ready to hear it, but after tonight, I need you to know. You're everything, Clara. Everything that matters." Tears pricked my eyes, emotion overwhelming logic. "I love you too. Even though you're dangerous and possessive and you just strong-armed me into moving in." "Especially because of that." His smile was genuine, transforming his face. "Because you see all of me and choose me anyway." "Always," I repeated, sealing the vow with a kiss. 2 years later, I stood in the kitchen of the new restaurant, La Rosa, named for my favorite flower, watching the opening night crowd through the window that separated the prep area from the dining room. The space was elegant but warm, all cream and gold, with photographs of Italian countryside scenes on the exposed brick walls. Enzo moved through the crowd with practiced ease, greeting guests, ensuring everyone felt welcomed. He'd transformed over the past 2 years, gradually legitimizing his operations until Vincenzo's was just the first in a chain of successful establishments. The darker businesses still existed on the periphery, but they no longer defined him. "Mrs. Moretti." Marco appeared at my elbow, using my married name with the same ease everyone had adopted after our wedding 6 months ago. The food critic from the Times just arrived, table 12. Perfect. I smoothed my dress, black and elegant, professional without being stuffy. I'll greet them personally. As I moved through the dining room, my eyes found Enzo across the space. He was watching me with that same intensity that had first captivated me years ago in Vincenzo's bar. But now it came with warmth, with pride, with absolute certainty of possession. Our eyes met, and he smiled, my dangerous, possessive, impossibly loving husband, before returning his attention to the city official he was charming. This was our life now. Our restaurants, our staff, our empire built on both legitimate success and the shadows that would probably always lurk at the edges. But we'd found balance, found a way to exist in both worlds without losing ourselves or each other. And when the last guest left and the staff finished cleaning, when it was just the two of us in the quiet restaurant, Enzo pulled me into his arms with familiar possessiveness. "You were magnificent tonight." His pride was evident. "My brilliant wife, my beautiful partner, our restaurant," I corrected, standing on tiptoe to kiss him. "Our success." "Ours," he agreed, the word carrying weight of shared dreams, shared risks, shared life. "Always ours." And in the kitchen of the restaurant we'd built together, in the life we'd carved from danger and devotion, that simple word meant everything.